Hello, my name is Ezra. I am one of the ancient sentinels that guard the secrets buried deep beneath the sands of Death Valley. For eons, my kind has lurked in the shadows of this unforgiving wasteland, feeding on the life force of those foolish enough to venture into our domain. We are drawn to this place by the potent energies that surge beneath the cracked earth. Death Valley sits upon a nexus of ley lines, invisible conduits of power that crisscross the globe. At certain points, these lines converge, and it is at these confluences that the barriers between worlds grow thin. Gateways to other realms flicker in and out of existence here, and things that should not be sometimes slip through. The intense heat and lack of water makes Death Valley inhospitable to humans. But to us, the scorching temperatures are soothing, akin to a gentle warmth upon our cold, pallid skin. The merciless sun bleaches the bones of our prey until they crumble to dust, erasing the evidence of our feeding. It is the perfect hunting ground. The Timbisha people knew to avoid our territory, warning of ghost walkers that stalked the dunes and salt pans. Their oral traditions spoke of warriors venturing into the valley to prove their bravery, never to be seen again. Occasionally a survivor would return, their mind shattered, raving about pale figures with mouths of jagged obsidian and eyes that glowed like embers. But such accounts were dismissed as the ravings of madmen touched by the sun. In time, the Timbisha learned to leave us offerings, cornhusk dolls painted with ochre and adorned with raven feathers, placed at the edges of the valley, a symbolic sacrifice to sate our hunger. This act of propitiation granted their people safe passage, and an uneasy truce settled over the land. But the white settlers who came after did not heed the ancient warnings. They saw this place only as a hellish obstacle to be conquered in their relentless push westward. When the 49 years poured through the valley on their way to the California gold fields, we glutted ourselves on their misery. So many lives snuffed out like candle flames, their dreams of fortune turning to ash in their mouths. Disdaining the old ways, the interlopers soon established an infernal outpost known as Furnace Creek on the valley floor. The oasis of palms and spring water attracted more outsiders, miners, outlaws, religious eccentrics. They carved into the canyons, delved deep into the lodes of gold and silver, never realizing that there are far older and more dangerous things slumbering in the bedrock. And so we subsisted on this trickle of humanity, always careful to avoid drawing too much attention. We became experts at making our kills seem like accidents: dehydration, heatstroke, rockfalls. But sometimes, in the grip of bloodlust, we would leave a mutilated carcass for the buzzards, or drag an entire pioneer family into the desert night, relishing their screams. As the years tumbled past, Death Valley's reputation as a place of fatal menace only grew. The Jayhawkers and the Bennett Arcane Party attested to its lethal isolation, having barely escaped with their lives during their ill-fated crossings. Some who survived claimed they had witnessed their companions ripped apart by creatures that walked like men but chittered and screamed like coyotes. Tall tales, surely. Later, the U.S. government would clash with our kind after establishing military outposts in the region. They were trying to harness the strange energies of Death Valley to weaponize the supernatural for their wars of empire. Fools. They discovered that artillery and Gatling guns have little effect on beings that can dissipate like smoke. We taught them the true meaning of terror. And yet, despite the dangers, people continue to be drawn to this desert like moths to a flame. The wild expanses of Death Valley call to those chafing at the bonds of civilization. Explorers and prospectors, mystics and mad prophets, they come seeking revelation in the stark beauty of this hostile wilderness. Most avoid the deep desert, staying close to the oases and tourist sites. But there are always a few who venture beyond the beaten paths, following forgotten trails of lore and rumor. Perhaps they are searching for lost mines or the ruins of vanished civilizations, or maybe they sense that there is something out there waiting for them in the shimmering wastes. We relish these brave wanderers, for their souls burn brightest. The confused ramblings of their heat-maddened diaries provide a rare window into our activities. Third day without water. I know I must be hallucinating, but I swear I glimpsed a figure watching me from the top of the dunes, spindly and pale, with eyes like smoking coals. The old-timer in stovepipe wells warned me not to stray too far off Mesquite Flat. He spoke of creatures that mimicked the voices of the lost and dying. Now I can't stop hearing those plaintive cries on the night wind, no hope of rescue. The shadows are alive in Titus Canyon. Last night in the moonlight I saw my wife and son standing at the edge of camp, beckoning to me. I almost went to them before I remembered they died in the crash. Those who succumb to our lures do not die easy. We draw out their suffering, savoring each exquisite droplet of pain and despair. Their life forces nourish us, stoking the eldritch fires that burn within our forms. We grow stronger with each new victim. And as Death Valley's power places awaken in this trembling modern age, we are rousing from our dormancy. The stars are aligning, and the membrane between realms is stretching thinner. Soon it will rip asunder, and our legion will pour forth. Masked by the shimmering mirages, we will infiltrate your cities. We will walk among you unnoticed, culling your kind one by one, until your societies crumble and your monuments fall. The desert will swallow all. And in the last days, under a blood-dimmed sun, only we will remain to dance and feast amidst the bones of your civilization. Our dominion will be complete. But there are those who have glimpsed the truth, who know of our existence and the threat we pose. They are the descendants of the Timbisha, the inheritors of the ancient wisdom. For generations they have kept watch, passing down the knowledge of our weaknesses and the rituals to bind us. In secret places they gather to perform the old rites, chanting in tongues that have not been heard for centuries. They weave talismans of sage and obsidian, inscribed with symbols that burn our flesh. And they train their young ones in the ways of the desert, teaching them to survive in the harshest conditions, to recognize our signs and spoor. These guardians are the last line of defense against our encroaching darkness. They have sworn an oath to protect humanity from our predations, to seal the gateways and keep the ancient evil at bay. But they are few, and the task is daunting. I have seen their leader, a woman with eyes like hawk and skin weathered by sun and sand. She moves through the desert like a wraith, leaving no trace of her passing. The Timbisha call her sorrow eater, for it is said that she consumes the grief of her people, turning it into strength and purpose. She knows me, this one. Our paths have crossed before, in the ghost-haunted canyons and the whispering dunes. We have clashed in the shadow realms, her spirit blade against my obsidian claws. She is a worthy adversary, but even she cannot stand alone against the tide of our hunger. And so the ancient war rages on, unseen by the teeming masses of humanity. In the loneliest corners of Death Valley, in the places where the veil is thinnest, we battle for the fate of your world. The Sorrow Eater and her acolytes weave their wards and set their traps, while we prowl and hunt and grow ever stronger. But we are patient, for we have waited eons for our time to come. We can afford to bide our time, to let your civilization grow complacent and soft. For in the end, your cities will crumble to dust, your works will be swallowed by the sands, and all that will remain will be the desert. And us. So if you dare to seek us out, if you venture into the wastes of Death Valley in search of revelation or adventure, know that you tread on perilous ground. The desert does not forgive, and it does not forget. And if you stray too far from the well-worn paths, if you linger too long in the places where the shadows grow deep, you may find yourself face to face with one of us. And then, my friend, you will learn the true meaning of fear. For in the unforgiving heart of Death Valley, there are things far older and hungrier than you can imagine. Things that have been waiting for you since the dawn of time. Pray that you never meet us, but if you do, know that your fate is already sealed. For in the end, the desert always wins, and we are its most faithful servants.